Hello, I'm Frankie Vu, and this is Conquest TV. In this episode, I'll be taking you through issue 10 of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest, which is packed with new background, a guide to building and painting your biggest model yet, the mephitic BLIGHT-HAULER, and a look at how vehicles like the BLIGHT-HAULER work in games of Warhammer 40,000. Let's start with the background. A lot of your new background focuses on the mephitic BLIGHT-HAULER, a dread demon engine. This is a blend of twisted technology and dark sorcery that adds fast-moving firepower to the Death Guard. You'll find out how these demon engines are created and what they can do, as well as get information about the potent weapons they're armed with. There's also another short story for you to enjoy, The Raid on Relthor Prime, which shows in detail just how utterly deadly the mephitic BLIGHT-HAULER can be. The BLIGHT-HAULER is the biggest model we've attempted together so far. But it's not that complicated. In fact, it's much easier than the Librarian. You don't even need glue to build the BLIGHT-HAULER either. You can use your plastic glue to join the parts even more securely together, but that's up to you. As with our other kits, each part is numbered on the frame. Let's start with parts 1 and 2. Part 1 is this massive fleshy engine part, while part 2 is this set of tracks. Fit them together like so. Part 3 is the other side of the armoured engine, and it pushes in on the other side of the tracks. Give it a good squeeze to make sure you're happy with the fit. The next bit is Part 4, this weird set of demonic mandibles. This goes underneath and pushes on here. When it's on, it should look like this. Now we need to add the outer tracks. These each come in 2 pieces, 5 and 6, which go together like so. Then parts 7 and 8, which are basically the same. They push into the bottom of the mandible section, just like this. The BLIGHT-HAULER needs some serious firepower, so let's build the armoured carapace, multi-melter, and missile launcher. The multi-melter is parts 9 and 10. They push together like this. While the missile launcher is part 11. Push this into the slot on part 12, just like this, and then fix the multi-melter into place like so. That is a lot of firepower right there. Fix this whole carapace onto the main body by pushing it onto this peg here. Take a moment to line it up carefully and then squeeze it into position. Finally, add the main hull armour, part 13. It pushes on right here and completes your mephitic BLIGHT-HAULER. You can push the finished model onto the base like so, but it's actually a good idea to leave it off until you've painted it. That way, you can get at the underside more easily. This model is the biggest one we've painted so far, and we're going to need plenty of Death Guard green to start off with. It's a good idea to mix a little water into your paint on a palette for this. Just take some paint from the pot and add it to your palette with a drop of water from your bristles. This way, you can do a couple of thin coats rather than a thick one that might obscure your details. With your paint ready, you can now apply Death Guard green all over your miniature. So I'm going to take some onto my brush here and cover it in a thin coat of Death Guard green. And once this dries, I can apply a second thin coat. Once you've applied your Death Guard green and it's all dried, your BLIGHT-HAULER should look like this. Now the BLIGHT-HAULER is a really strange beast. Part machine, part flesh, part demon. So let's paint all those gross fleshy bits with Bugman's Glow. As before, wet your brush before painting the Bugman's Glow on, and just take your time painting all of the fleshy areas. Pick up the model and move it around if that helps to get the brush into the hard to reach areas. Now start with the larger areas first, then move on to the smaller ones. Around the central eye and the fanged maw, you'll need to be especially careful. Once all the gross fleshy bits are painted, it's time to move on to all of that demonic metal, which means you'll need plenty of lead belcher. Use this to paint the tracks, machinery, and even the metal fangs at the front of the BLIGHT-HAULER. Now, take lots of care when painting the smaller areas. Washing your brush regularly and keeping a fine point on your bristles will help you be more accurate. Now that you're done with all the metal parts, it's time for Abaddon Black. Paint it onto the stinger on the rear of the BLIGHT-HAULER and the non-metal teeth at the front. Now that we've done all the black parts, it's time to add a base coat of Retributor armour, which will really help our model to look great. Now start out with the armour trim and the Nurgle icon at the centre of its carapace, but also get the spiked rail that runs along the spine and the heat shield on the multi-melter. With the base coats added, all we need to do now to finish our Blight Hauler is to apply those shades. Start with Nuln Oil and get all of those silver parts. Give the pot a good shake and paint it straight on with your brush. Now remember, don't apply it so heavily that it obscures the details of your model. A good trick is to start at the front of the model and work clockwise around it, painting all the lead belcher parts as you go. And finally, Agrax Earthshade. Pick out all those awesome gold details such as the armor banding and spike rail. Paint on enough so that some settles in the recesses, but try not to overload it. With the Agrax Earthshade painted on, our Blight Hauler is completed and ready for battle. In the future, we'll come back to add even more details and colours to this model. For now though, we've got a great looking miniature, so on to the gaming. The battle for Honor of Ultramar isn't over yet. As the Ultramarines gather their warriors in the depths of the cargo hold, explosions rack the makeshift battlefield. A mephitic Blight Hauler has arrived to smash apart the Space Marine lines. Let's get our game set up. We'll need our mat, as well as your Librarian, 3 Intercessors, and your new mephitic Blight Hauler. Roll to see who places their models first. Vehicles in Warhammer 40,000 work much like any other models. Take a look at the Blight Hauler's datasheet and you'll see it's basically the same as the other models in your collection so far. The first difference is that it can move much faster. In fact, it can move 10 inches. The second major difference is that it can fire each of its weapons. Choose which weapon will fire at which targets before making any rolls though. The Blight Hauler's guns are probably the deadliest weapons we've seen in the game so far. The multi-melter will wound our Space Marines on a roll of 2 or more. It's so powerful that Space Marines don't actually get an armor save at all. Worse still, any model wounded by the multi-melter will suffer D6 wounds. Roll a dice and the model suffers that much damage. Any wounds beyond the number needed to kill the target are just wasted, and we imagine these just make the victim's death even messier. The Blight Hauler's frag missile launcher is another unusual weapon. Before rolling to hit, roll a d6. The score is the number of shots you get. Now once you have the number of shots worked out, you make the to hit rolls as a batch. The Blight Hauler can also charge and fight in close combat as normal. In fact, it is deadly up close. Something to bear in mind is Librarian Arian's Force Sword. Until now, we've not needed all of its special rules, but each unsaved wound caused by the Force Sword does D3 wounds. Just like before, to work out how many wounds this is, roll a dice and half the score, rounding up. The Blight Hauler will need to get a 6+ armor save against the Force Sword. If this is failed, it will also get to make a disgustingly resilient save for each damage point it suffers. There are some very powerful models to play in this mission, so make sure you have the datasheets for your units on hand as you play your game. Once you're ready, it's time to fight out our last battle in this video, Smite the Blight Hauler. Determined to break the deadlock and smash through to the interior of the Honor of Ultramar, the Death Guard have unleashed a mephitic Blight Hauler. Only a Primaris Librarian and a squad of 3 Reavers stand in its path. Set up the game mat as before. The Death Guard player gets the first turn. The Death Guard player wins the battle if the Blight Hauler can eliminate the Primaris Librarian. Now the Ultramarines win if they can slay the Blight Hauler. With such great armor and so many wounds, the Blight Hauler is going to take some serious killing. The Librarian is the Ultramarines' best chance for victory, but if you risk him in battle, you might end up losing the game completely. But don't forget, there's no shame in taking cover. The multi-melter is so powerful that a single shot could kill even the Librarian. Once you've given this battle a go or two, make sure you check out the extra rules at the back of issue 10. The Blight Hauler has one more powerful ability we haven't even looked at yet, the Bile Spurt. Yes, that's right, this monstrous demon engine has another weapon. The Ultramarines are going to need every advantage they can get to stop it. That's it for this installment of Conquest TV, but no worries, I'll be back with you soon to add some reinforcements to the Ultramarines in the form of aggressors, heavily armoured Space Marines who use fire-spewing flamers to bring death to their plague-ridden enemies. See you then.